10 times Gordon Ramsay actually failed. Gordon belittles and tears into anyone who makes a mistake, even when they are learning from him. His expectations from others when it comes to what he does are superior to those of the average human. That is why these failures are even more shocking, because it doesn't equate to the standards that are imposed by society as a result of his prestige. Imagine a legendary musical artist like Beyonce making a bad song. Yeah, that's how bad it is. It isn't just a mistake anyone can shun off. No. People expect the best from the best. Easy to understand, right? Number 10, blind teaching goes wrong. Whenever you get scolded by your boss again, you can watch this to feel better. Gordon had a seemingly simple task at an edition of the Bon Appetit, and he totally ruined it. The celeb chef was supposed to guide a volunteer in preparing a crab cake, but the rule was that they had to be placed back to back. So while the cooking was going on, none of them could see what the other was doing. Gordon made good use of his 15 minutes by putting his perfectionist skills to good use. Shane, on the other hand, was ready to create his own killer crab recipe. The most terrific part was when Shane asked for a measurement and Gordon gave it to him using metric. Who doesn't know that Americans do not measure in metric? Well, it's a good thing Shane didn't rate himself too high. He basically struggled with a knife and revealed a dish which Gordon called a dog's dinner. Shane didn't seem to be deterred anyway, since he said he was going to take on cooking. That's some great news. Number 9, Gordon's fish steak gets rejected. Imagine getting a taste of your own medicine. Gordon's case was even worse because it came from a fellow chef who didn't measure up to him. Gordon had come to the restaurant to try and resuscitate it, but the chefs there, Douglas and Charles, were expecting him to applaud their cooking skills and tell them that the customers were the problem. Gordon prepared a fish steak and shared it with the restaurant owner and the head chef. The reaction was something that you wouldn't even anticipate in your wildest dreams. The head chef, Doug, turned down the offer in Gordon's face and still gave reasons for it. Gordon had reached his limit, and he flared up at the annoying chef. The pressure increased when even the sous chef, Charles, refused to take instructions from Gordon. Gordon's ideas of helping out came out as rude. One thing Gordon finally succeeded at here was firing the duo. The Wonder Chef must have heaved a sigh of relief after this encounter. But whatever ordeal he went through here was nothing compared to the embarrassment that awaited him in the Turkish restaurant. Number 8, a clueless Gordon in a Turkish restaurant. Different cultures have different ways of cooking, but I am sure no one ever gave Gordon the memo. The celeb chef wanted to hone his skills in Turkish cuisine, but it didn't quite go as he had planned. One thing you can be sure of is that Gordon definitely knows how to pick them. He went straight to Kazan, one of the best Turkish restaurants in London. It was a total disaster right from the start. Even the head chef couldn't even recognize that Gordon was a top personality. That there was enough to make Ramsay feel less important. Without wasting time, the chef went on to prepare the cuisine for the day, which consisted of dolma and burek. Gordon had a tough time with these two cuisines, and they got the head of chef impatient. You know how Gordon often yells at his staff? Yes, that was exactly what he got to witness firsthand. It was so bad that the almighty Gordon admitted that he was bad at it. It was a relief that he didn't need a reminder from the chef that he had failed. Well, maybe China chef world would be better, so Gordon journeys into the Chinese kitchen. Number 7, noodle pulling class goes wrong. Enough of cooking noodles the regular way. Gordon says to himself, why not go over to a Chinese restaurant and do the noodle pulling myself? Well, the celeb chef was in for the shock of a lifetime. If you haven't heard about noodle pulling before, it's an ancient practice that starts with making a dough and then wrapping it with your hands. The pulling is done rapidly and rhythmically while being rewrapped around the hands, forming noodles. It was really delightful to watch the Chinese chefs do this until Gordon stepped up to the challenge. They kept guiding Gordon on how to do it, but it was impossible for him to get it. Gordon was impatient, and the Chinese chef got frustrated with Gordon's failures. All the dough that Gordon touched was thrown at the glass in ruin. At a point, the other chefs must have given up on the noodle pulling class, or maybe the translators just weren't helping matters. Number 6, bar renovation is not Gordon's specialty. Barefoot Bob's Beach Grill was in need of some urgent intervention, and the establishment thought to bring in the best. The owners, Mark and Liza Caradona, complained bitterly about how their sales had gone down. Liza was in charge of accounting, and she was doing a really bad job with it. In a bid to save money, Mark took up the position of the chef without any experience. The pair were a ticking time bomb. As expected, Ramsay evaluated the food on the menu by first tasting it. Gordon was disappointed at what he got and went on to observe the kitchen during its dinner service. This one turned out to be the icing on the cake, except that this cake wasn't a clean one. The kitchen was dirty and the food was poorly stored. All this while, the owners did not react much to Ramsay until he went too far. He took away the divey tiki bar decor and changed it into a New England blue and white yacht club theme. Mark and Liza were stunned by the new look. Their staff also shared similar reactions, but Liza's brother and manager were not pleased. Gordon had failed to achieve his goal because Liza's manager angrily said the restaurant had lost its uniqueness. Instead of giving them a bar, Gordon had a 5-star restaurant in mind. Now that's what we call a failure. Does Gordon ever get tired of showing off? The answer is a big no. Number 5, failed management. Now this one is even bigger than anyone you have heard so far. There was a time when Gordon was sued for not treating his staffs well. This might come as a shocker, but it occurred in 2013. The class action suit came from 2 of Gordon's employees in his Los Angeles restaurant. The Fat Cow former employees Jennifer Becerra, Montanique Dever, Andrea Burke, and Lauren Binge revealed that they were not paid in full for the overtime hours. They also added that they were all made to work under duress. Who would have imagined that even the great Gordon would not have a hold on his management? Although Gordon attributed the issues to those he put in charge, it is still unbelievable that such a thing would happen in his house. Still in 2013, Gordon was also slammed with a different suit from his accountants in New York over an invoice that was overdue. Number 4, when Gordon's disguise failed. We all know that Gordon loves to try out unfamiliar terrains. This time around, he decided to make himself look different with some makeup. So Ramsay makes an appearance at a class being held by another celebrity chef, Jean-Christophe Novelli. In the mind of Gordon and his team, he was stepping out with a new face. Gordon and Novelli were old-time friends and colleagues. They forgot to work on his body and voice. Gordon stood out on the line to get a handshake from Novelli, and that was all it took for him to be spotted. Novelli recognized Gordon right away, and they both had a good laugh. It was a good thing that Novelli didn't take it to heart. It would be close to impossible for anyone who has ever heard Gordon speak out to recognize his voice immediately. But this incident is something that no one will forget in a hurry, including Gordon's fans. Number 3, Gordon fails to bring life back to Priory. Scott had bought the Priory restaurant because he was captivated by the building, but he had zero clue when it came to managing a restaurant. So before long, the Priory was at Gordon's mercy. The only thing that Gordon found great about the place was the magnificent building. The rest things about the ancient restaurant was far from nice. The customers were senior citizens, and the only reason why they visited was because of the half-dining coupon. The meals were terrible, and the food products in the kitchen were all in bad shape. Gordon discussed this with Matt, the chef and manager. All this while, the owner Scott had no idea of what was going on. Gordon gives the restaurant a complete overhaul by changing the equipment and forcing them to leave the carvery behind. When the day for the relaunch finally comes, Scott and the head chef were taken aback. It wasn't the reaction that Gordon had expected from them. A few years later, the Priory was permanently shut down because Scott had ignored all of Gordon's structures. From being the high-end chef to an amateur in an Indian restaurant, it was a shameful transition for Gordon. Number 2, Gordon is the rookie in an Indian restaurant tutorial. The celebrity chef is always at his best when he is in his own element, where he gets to be the one doing the corrections and screaming at people. The tables turned around when Gordon went over to an Indian restaurant in London. Everything that the chef there did with ease, Gordon took forever to learn. One would think he is the smartest chef alive, but this encounter changed her perspective. Gordon's first lesson was on making a tandoori kebab. The master chef messed up the whole stick such that his tutor had to advise that he needed more practice. The time for the oven came and Gordon couldn't stand the heat. Like a child waiting for his mother in a park, Gordon watched as the chef reached out for the bread inside the oven. Number 1, Gordon embarrasses himself in front of Tommy Walton. It is normal for Gordon to be nice to his contestants on MasterChef, but his reaction to Tommy Walton is what we can describe as a disaster. The South Loop fashion designer was all over the place, and his unique vibes got the attention of everyone, including Ramsay. Walton then served Gordon dirty rice jambalaya, and that's when the episode got interesting. After tasting the meal, Gordon commented by saying, "I want to wake up with you." Although he later tried to correct himself, the damage had already been done. The meal must have been so lovely for Gordon to get confused on air. Walton wasn't in the contest initially, but he seized control and saved 2 cooks from elimination. Gordon is a champ in the celebrity chef world, and this is what makes it delightful to see him make a fool of himself. It also serves as a reminder that Ramsay is a human who can make blunders too.